Hey, how's it going there, folks? Welcome back here to a Saturday night update. It is the Earthmaster out here, and boy, do we got a lot to chat about here in terms of space weather activity happening real soon. Currently happening, actually. It is about 11:48 p.m. Saturday night, March 23rd, 2024. Latest activity looks like a 2.2 on the big island of Hawaii there in the middle of the Pacific. We did see some big-time earthquake activity out here as well, following the recent X-flare activity and the elevated proton event that's going on here. We're getting hit pretty hard with some charged protons from that X-flare that was Earth-directed yesterday. Now, that did produce a pretty massive CME, and we're looking at the potential here of a G3 class storm coming in here around the 25th UTC time. Let's check out the detailed forecast here and see what we got. We're actually currently getting some elevated activity right now. Look at this KP index coming in up around the 4, 5, and even almost to the 6 range just in the last 12 hours or so. So we haven't even been hit with that large CME yet. So G2, G3 class storm coming in. The main focus looks like it's going to be on the March 25th time frame here between 0 and 600 UTC time. Okay, so right now the current UTC time is 0644 on the 24th. So roughly this time tomorrow night, we could be looking at some major auroras hitting down into the mid and possibly the lower latitudes here. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Either way, expect some big-time auroras potentially as this CME pretty much hits us dead on from that large X-flare here just a day or so ago. So this is quite elevated compared to our recent solar flaring activity, our recent solar weather activity. Currently, the aurora forecast doesn't look like too much going on there, but we did see some elevated KP index conditions there kicking up. Here is the model forecast here. This is the, it's actually the CME. You can see big, huge, full halo CME, Earth-directed. We are getting hit with a pretty decent hit from it. Currently look at these elevated levels here. There's a lot of red here on this site called solarham.net. A lot of red means a lot of solar weather activity. 45% chance for an X-flare. Now, these flares, they can get pretty big out here. We haven't seen anything that matched up that X6.7 that kicked up here a few weeks ago. The most recent X-flare was an X1.1 from 3614, again, yesterday. But look at all these M flares popping up. You can probably add another 5 on top of that. These are just the M flares of M2 plus and above. Look at this flare chart up here. This is crazy looking. There's the X-flare. Look at all these M flares popping like crazy. I'm sure we're getting close to seeing another X-flare here pretty soon, maybe even something larger than what we've just seen. Double checking everything, making sure I got everything muted as far as the earthquake 3D bells. So let's count these M flares. There's at least 2 there. Notice these spikes on the chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, maybe 15, 16, 17, 18. I'd say there's probably been about 18 M flares here recently in the last 24 hours. And a lot of that activity is coming off of a huge sunspot, 3615. That is quite dynamic right here. Look at this. That is a majorly complex sunspot. And it's one of the more complex sunspots that I have seen here in a long time. That X-flare yesterday came off of this region. We have yet to see an X-flare from this region here, but this is the one that's producing and sizzling with all of these M flares that are currently taking place there. So overall threat right now, 99% chance for C flare, M flare at 90, X flare around 45% chance. I don't recall the last time I've seen these elevated levels like this. So And everything is in Earth-directed view. We're not talking about 3615 being off on the eastern limb or the western limb. Whatever blast off from here will be Earth-directive and 100% geo-effective. So we've got to watch this pretty closely. We're just lined up for a bullseye shot here if we get something major happening from that sunspot. Again, 3615 is the region to watch. We do have numerous sunspots trailing, so we'll continue to watch that. Elevated SFI index here. This is the energy being produced from these sunspots. That's way up there, around 209. And again, that proton level is elevated. Look at that across the polar regions there. This is going to be an interesting event. So we got elevated proton activity there across the polar regions. Already seeing some KP index here, some unsettled conditions. Once the arrival of that large CME hits us, we could be looking at G3. I mean, they're forecasting a G3, but this could be maybe up in the G4 category. You just never know. So this is kind of a big deal, kind of a more of a eventful solar weather event here, something that we haven't seen in quite a while. So we'll continue to watch that. No threat to us here on the surface. This could obviously give the folks there that love watching the auroras a beautiful, spectacular view, even down into maybe some of the mid who knows, the lower latitudes there. We'll have to watch that. Tomorrow morning we should get a peek at the let me look here real quick and see if it's up. A lot of times we can check out the aurora forecast. Let's see if they put one out here yet. I wasn't going to share it, but not that one. Hold on a second here. Let's see if they have it out here. It's going to be the experimental version here from the Space Weather Prediction Center. Okay, they actually do have it out here. So this is the this is for tonight. Obviously, there's some stuff going on here, but we haven't got the CME hitting us yet. Tomorrow night, it looks like some of it could be kicking in here. KP index around 6 or so. That's the forecast for tomorrow. Look at the view line here. Pretty low around Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska area. That's it could be a little bit lower than that. We'll have to check that tomorrow morning and see how that see if it updates or not. But that's pretty spectacular. I do think we have a decent chance there of seeing some auroras down into the the lower locations there. All right, so let's look at and see what we got here for the current flaring. There's a little bit of flaring going on here against that the very active region. Again, it's just a bullseye shot right here. If anything were to blast off in terms of anything major, similar to like maybe a Carrington event or stronger, I mean, that's a decent flare or a decent sunspot. Look at that. If we had clear skies today, I would be out there with my camera and my solar lens getting some pictures of that. But we had some storms and clouds out here today, so obscuring the view of the sun. But that is a spectacular sunspot, 3615. We will watch that pretty closely, folks. Again, that's it's hard to miss. All right, and following all this activity, if you guys watched my update this morning, I chatted about how nothing happened in terms of earthquake activity, right? Following this elevated proton event and the X-flare from yesterday, but boy, was I wrong. It almost seems like there's a window of at least a 24-hour window here between the relationship between the flaring, proton event, and earthquake activity. This is something similar to what we've seen at the first of the year. We had a pretty large flare kick off, elevated proton event, and then a very large earthquake there off the west coast of Japan. Today we had elevated activity. I kind of jumped the gun saying that nothing had happened, but I think I jinxed it. But it seems like there's a window, a certain hour maybe like a 12-hour period from the arrival of these charged protons to when earthquake activity starts to get elevated. Because following all this activity today, goodness, we've seen a lot of earthquake activity, including a 6.9, originally a 7.0 there in Papua New Guinea. Also seen some activity on the larger size back over here with a 5.7 across the Indonesia area, Java Trench. So things have been elevated. Look at this, a 5.2 coming into the Philippines. Things have really stirred up along with this proton event that's coming in. I can only imagine here, once we get the arrival of that CME, how much further things could get elevated in terms of earthquake activity. So we'll have to watch that over the next couple nights. But I'm definitely in agreement with the arrival of the protons earlier today and the subsequent larger earthquake activity, that it is simply not just a coincidence here between the two. As far as that relationship between the two, I think we're all connected in some way or the other, right? Not only humanity, but the stars, the sun, the planets, everything that revolves and goes on with every single detail of the sun. And these flares and proton events directly affects the Earth. Deeper activity up here in the Izu Trench. I mean, look at that. It's a lot of large-scale activity taking place here today, folks. And this is during the proton event, not before, but hours after the arrival of a lot of protons. So we'll watch this as this large CME comes in tomorrow night. And possibly over the next couple nights or so for some larger scale earthquake activity. But that's one for the books for sure, in terms of the theory of space weather activity and the relationship that it causes earthquakes out here, elevated earthquake activity across this planet. So 6.9, let's go in and double check that here. There wasn't any tsunami statement. That was underneath the land, about 40 kilometers deep. There's been a handful of aftershocks. It was almost, let's see here. Yeah, about 7 hours or so following that 6.9. We've seen that 5.7 over here across the Indonesia Islands area. And this was an earlier event here, that 5.3. But definitely seen some elevated movement here. The latest, again, a 5.2 in the Philippines region. Deep activity triggering back here again following all this movement today. I mean, it's a huge cluster. It's a mess of large earthquake activity out here. There's some minimal adjustment, like I mentioned here, across New Zealand, but this is deep activity once again here underneath North Island, and this has been an ongoing trend here over the last couple weeks. So continue to watch the New Zealand area here for some movement. They're definitely overdue in terms of some large-scale activity. Quiet out here across the Tonga region for now. That 4.2 the USGS not reporting on it here, but that earthquake coming in there looks like late afternoon my time. 470 kilometers deep into the Izu Trench for that earthquake. All right, let's take. Was that 3.9 just coming in right now, or let's see here? No, that was looks like earlier today. Either way, definitely keep an eye on New Zealand. It's popping up like crazy, and it's wanting to, definitely looks like it wants to adjust down there. All right, as far as California goes, right now looks like we're safe out here. Not a whole lot going on in terms of large-scale movement. One earthquake outside the Lincoln area. This is kind of an odd one. 17 kilometers deep underneath this area. Don't really see too much earthquake activity here centered around the Sacramento area. So that's an odd one. 2.1. It's underneath an automatic status review, so it has not been reviewed yet. So this could be maybe a false earthquake, maybe a revised earthquake from somewhere else. We'll have to watch that, but kind of odd seeing an earthquake out there. This earthquake from early this morning off the coast there of Eureka, that's the associated with the Cascadia subduction zone there at 15 kilometers deep. Further down south, again, not a whole lot going on. A little bit of swarming here I can't even really call that swarming. There's a couple earthquakes outside the Ocatilla Wells area. One's in, looks like maybe a 2-pointer in there as well. But we'll continue to watch the West Coast, see if things kick up or not. Let's see here. Texas area, obviously getting some movement out there in the oil fields like normal. That's crazy to think that earthquake activity is normal out there in Texas now. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up. This just double check, see what's going on out there. Doesn't look like too much is stirring up for the most part. Let's see here. What is this? Look at that reading. That's got to be from that 6.9 earthquake. That's a long duration event. See that? That's about the time frame when the 6.9 stirred up there outside Papua New Guinea. It showed up pretty nicely here across Yellowstone. Yes, Yellowstone, many thousands of miles away, picked up this reading. That just goes to show you how sensitive this equipment really is when it comes to picking up seismic activity there in the ground. This one's over amplified. That thing showed up like it was close, but it definitely picked it up pretty nicely as well across the east entrance there of the Yellowstone National Park. Far as, local activity, I'm really not seeing anything far as local earthquake activity there across the region. Let's see what else we got. South America, quite active out there in terms of 3s and 4s. A little bit of activity up the coast there. Peru, close to the area of Ecuador. It looks like it's on the Peru side, though, 4.3. And Middle America Trench looks like it's toning down slightly here. Puerto Rico area, similar. As far as the Atlantic Ocean goes, pretty quiet. Goodness, what's going on up here in Iceland? A 3.8. Let's go up there and see what's going on. Let's go to the Iceland earthquake map here. See if there's anything of noteworthy value. Where'd that 3.8 go? Looks like a fairly recent earthquake. Last 6 hours. Okay, let me pull this up to the last 12. There we go. So it looks like the Icelandic folks are reporting this as a 3.5, specifically around this area of the rift zones, continental rift zone out here. That's a ways away from the Grindavik area, which is seeing the ongoing activity there, far as volcanic movement goes. So let's go check out the live stream here from the Iceland area of Grindavik. Looks quite active still. Really no decline in terms of the amount of activity going on there. It definitely looks like things are still continuing just about steady as she goes. Day number 8 here of the eruptive activity. Way different, right? Way different than the past few eruptions here, where we had about a day of activity and then it paused for 30 days and then came back up. So this telling me that there's just a free channel, a free flow from the areas deep below to the surface. So this could continue for quite some time. As far as any major update there from the Icelandic Met Office, looks like this was put out earlier today. They're just kind of chatting about the ongoing potential of volcanic gases, but really no new update here. But I'm sure that lava is continuing to accumulate on top of each other. This is the lava thickness graph where we're looking at the eruptive vents here. They just continuing to accumulate on top of each other, building up new land, new mountain ranges maybe out here. But no further divergent or no further activity down south as far as movement goes from the lava field, which is good. But, who's to say, this doesn't continue on for weeks, if not months. Then we would be looking at some long-term potential damage out there. We could see some diverting of the lava to certain areas around Grindavik, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. All right, out here in the Pacific, got some movement going on across the Pahala area. Very minimal activity here across Kilauea Volcano. Mostly smaller microquakes there. Really not looking at any major changes going on. And I think the main thing right now is the ongoing flare threat and the arrival of this it's a decent CME coming in tomorrow, folks. And well, technically I would say over the next couple nights. Let me check the Space Weather Prediction Center. This is their solar wind prediction. As we key this up, watch this CME. It's going to be blasted off of the sun, the Earth in the green dot. There it is. So right about there, look at that, lined up squarely at Earth. This is the plasma density in terms of the content. I guess that's the best word I can think of this CME, this plasma cloud. This here down south is going to be the velocity of it, the speed, so to speak. And we're not going to get slammed. It does look like it just missed us in terms of the majorness of it over here. If that was a little bit closer to Earth, I think we'd be looking at some huge aurora outbreaks. But nonetheless, we are looking at the arrival of this event. You guys see that? The majority of it does look like it's shooting off to the north. I hope that we're not in between this little channel here. Otherwise, we won't see anything. But we'll have to watch that and see how that plays out. Either way, elevated activity here over the next couple nights. Keep an eye on the sky. Aurora potential, big time. Solar proton flux. Yeah, look at that. Crazy activity stirring up there in the proton category. So we'll continue to keep an eye on 3615. I think it's got potential here, folks, to see something much bigger than the flaring that's currently taking place. Many M flares from that. Look at that, 3615 across the board. But this is just above 2 plus. And as you can see here on the map, each one of these spikes here are an M flare. This is one. This is a second one. One down here. One here. One here. One here. I mean, there's so many M flares that complex, super complex sunspot is producing right there. Like I say, I don't recall the last time I seen something this advanced, so we'll watch that, folks. Far as Storm Prediction Center here on Earth, well, we had some showers around the area, some thunderstorms up around Redding and Anderson and Cottonwood today in Northern California. Day one outlook. Let's go back here. Well, this is for Monday. Let me go back here a little bit. Day one looks like on Sunday, a slight risk for some severe weather across mainly Kansas up here, portions of Oklahoma as well. That's due to a 5% chance of tornado probability out there. So heads up for some spinning water vapor, also some wind and some hail threats out there. But I think the main area is going to be some 5% chance for tornado probability. But literally, if you're anywhere out there in the 2% zone, 5% zone, keep an eye on the sky. A lot of folks at home on the Sunday, going to church or whatnot, please make sure you have your, keep your cell phones nearby, keep your weather radio nearby, maybe keep your local radio station on as well. That way you guys can get advised of any severe weather alerts and any tornado warnings out there, because it's kind of a big deal. We're getting out there in this time of year where things can start getting crazy. All right, West Coast, there's our storm system right now. Wasn't really too impressed with it. We got a little bit of rain, but not much. There's our severe weather threat tomorrow, as you can see out here for Sunday and into Monday. That low pressure system that's heading off that direction. For California, got another storm system coming in about midweek, Wednesday night looks like, into Thursday, bringing some cold rain and snow. These systems that are dropping down from the northwest normally produce just mountain snow. and some rainfall across the coast, but we don't really get hit with super big time rain in the Sacramento Valley just due to the rain shadow effect. But there's a decent little low pressure system here. Looks like towards next weekend, bringing Southern California a decent chance of some heavy precipitation. That's quite the low pressure cutoff there. After that, you know, it's close. Look at that. I'm sure you guys probably seen around the social media world today of cloud cover percentage on the April 8th time period. I seen it, and I wanted to comment on it. I decided not to because it's a ways out there. But it showed basically almost 100% of the area that's supposed to be in the totality zone covered in basically in cloud cover. So everyone would be, obviously angry or upset, but I don't believe that. It's a ways out there. This specific model, shows a storm system passing on the 7th. And as far as the 8th goes, it looks to be heading off further to the southeast here in terms of this weather maker, leaving an open door for the total eclipse on the 8th. But we'll have to watch that. You know, it would be a bummer to have complete cloud cover out here during the total eclipse, you know, because it doesn't happen all that often, right? And this is going over a major populated area, so I think a lot of folks will be bummed out. Stay tuned here for this to this channel. I will be providing further updates on the weather potential out here when it comes to the total eclipse on the 8th of April. Right now, this weather model is showing clear as we head into that date. All right, what else is there? Anything else major going on, folks? I guess we're just going to sit back and enjoy the show in terms of the aurora potential. Got a little earthquake coming into Hot Caves, Hawaii right now. Pretty decent little signature, popping up in the 300 microns a second. Let's see what we got there. 2040. Doesn't look like it's popped up yet in terms of the magnitude, but that's a kind of a decent one. Flatlined this earthquake seismograph station pretty nicely. Doesn't look like anything huge. Average looks like about 11, so this thing popped up a little bit. But I don't think it's anything big. Probably a 2.5, maybe a 2.7, maybe up around a 3. But I don't think it's anything big. It might take them a minute to pop it up. But all right, folks, we'll be back here in the morning to cover all the space weather activity, all the earthquake activity, and let's see what happens upon the arrival of the CME here. See if it affects the plate tectonics out here. See if we don't get any further large-scale activity. But because it's looking more and more likely here in that theory that these solar flares and the subsequent effects of the solar flares are producing or triggering large-scale earthquake activity. All right, we'll see you guys back here in the morning. Well, technically it's morning right now. It's already Sunday morning, but we'll see you guys after a few hours of sleep. Take care, folks.